Steve Jobs. That's a name that we've all heard of. You probably know him as the co-founder of Apple, the founder of Next, and the former chairman and CEO of Pixar. But a lesser-known fact about Jobs is that he was also the guy who placed one of the earliest online pizza delivery orders, and his company even provided the technology to power the website that made it all happen. Yeah, I didn't know about that last one until a while ago, but it's a pretty interesting story, so let's get into it. Nowadays, ordering a pizza online is something that you don't think much about. Go to your favorite pizzeria's website or mobile app, find what you want, place the order, and wait for it to show up at your door. It's convenient, it's efficient, and it's simple. And food delivery services like Grubhub and DoorDash have made it even more appealing, and have enabled those smaller, local shops who may not have an online ordering system or mobile app to easily fulfill these orders with very little overhead. But in the mid-90s, ordering a pizza from your computer was something that you would see in a science fiction movie. It was a pretty futuristic concept. Remember, at this time, the web was still in its infancy, and it's estimated that only around 14% of American adults had access to the internet in 1995. But it didn't take very long for some to realize the potential of the World Wide Web with respect to food ordering and delivery. The first company to establish a website for ordering pizza online was actually Pizza Hut, who in 1994, via a partnership with the Santa Cruz Operations software company, launched PizzaNet. For the very first time, users of the World Wide Web could place an order for a pizza right from their computer. But this was more of an experiment, or a pilot program, as it was only available in select Santa Cruz, California area Pizza Hut restaurants. Despite the website's simple appearance, there was a lot going on the back end. On the site, you had access to a menu and 3 text boxes to fill out your name, delivery address, and phone number. Once you placed your order, it would be sent to a server in Kansas, where Pizza Hut was based at the time. From there, it would be sent to the Pizza Hut restaurant in Santa Cruz. The restaurant was outfitted with an internet connection that was used specifically for the online ordering service. Once received, an employee would call the provided phone number to verify the customer's order to prevent any abuse of the system. Upon verification, your order would be processed and then delivered to you. Now, this may have been feasible for larger chain restaurants, but it was virtually impossible for those local pizzerias due to the high overhead cost. Plus, it didn't really provide any increased convenience to the customer. Sure, they could place the order online, but they would still have to wait around for a phone call from Pizza Hut. So why not just place the order by phone in the first place? Again, this was only a test run of a concept, and it was not implemented in Pizza Hut locations outside of the Santa Cruz area. But a couple years later, a website would launch that took online pizza ordering to the next level. A service that allowed smaller restaurants to have the same online presence as large chains. It was known as Cyberslice. And believe it or not, the inspiration for this website came from a fictional movie, the 1995 action thriller film, The Net. On July 28, 1995, the world was introduced to The Net, a film starring Sandra Bullock as a computer systems analyst named Angela Bennett. I'm not going to discuss the entire plot of the movie here, but interestingly, it showcases web-based activities that are pretty commonplace today. Bennett telecommuted to her job, meaning that she worked from home, and much of the interaction between certain characters in the movie takes place through online chat rooms. Now, these things were not unheard of in 1995, but they were certainly not as commonplace as they are today. But something that was relatively new, especially if you lived outside of Santa Cruz, was the concept of ordering a pizza online, which Bennett does in the opening scene using a service called Pizza.net. And for Tim Glass, this scene really stuck. He was unable to find a company that offered a service like this, aside from Pizza Hut. But again, this was in a very limited sense. So 1 year later, in 1996, Glass, along with Jim Brimhall and Brian Cupps, launched Cyberslice, a company with a goal of making online pizza ordering mainstream. And they didn't waste any time. In December of that year, a press release was put out announcing the service, with a pretty influential person backing the venture. You see, Cyberslice utilized WebObjects, an object-oriented web application framework created by Steve Jobs' Next software company. Next was already very groundbreaking in the realm of the World Wide Web. Tim Berners-Lee created the World Wide Web and the first web browser on a Next computer. And although their products were not intended to be used by everyday consumers, WebObjects was popular in the corporate world, especially during the early days of the web. And it provided Cyberslice with a powerful framework to build their service on top of. In the initial press release, Jobs backed the new company by saying, "Cyberslice has enabled any small or large pizza provider to get online. Next is excited to provide the enabling technology to Cyberslice, which combines fun with an innovative business concept." The success of Cyberslice shows the versatility of WebObjects in creating and deploying consumer web applications that are both sophisticated and original. From a business standpoint, the Cyberslice partnership was a great way for Next to showcase the power and versatility of WebObjects. But Steve Jobs personally liked the service and thought that the company had great potential. At an event in 1996, Jobs approached Brian Kupps, one of the company's co-founders. As Kupps recalled in an interview, he said he loved my website and our online ordering app, and I remember him saying that it was really cool, a killer app. Now, Jobs had a reputation for being an extreme perfectionist who was not afraid to completely trash on somebody's work over the most minute details, so this was very surprising. Kupps then said, "I was told later that he was normally not that complimentary." In fact, Jobs liked Cyberslice so much that he agreed to demonstrate it publicly and become the service's very first customer. Known for his very strict diet, he opted to get a cheeseless pizza with only tomato sauce and basil. So how did Cyberslice work, and what made it so different from the Pizza Hut implementation 2 years prior? Well, it all starts at the website, which is much more graphical and interactive than the Pizza Hut site. The service launched with support for around 1,000 pizza restaurants, located in 4 major US cities: San Francisco, New York City, Seattle, and Boston. You would start by typing in your delivery address. Cyberslice utilized MapQuest to pinpoint restaurants near your address that could deliver to you. And since the site was powered by WebObjects, a unique web page showing these restaurants would be created on the fly and displayed to you. Then you just have to choose the restaurant you want to order from. Each restaurant got their own page on Cyberslice that displayed their menu, hours of operation, and what payment types were accepted. One of the really innovative things about Cyberslice is that, similar to the food delivery apps of today, the pizza restaurants did not need to have their own online ordering system. In fact, they didn't need to have an internet connection or even a computer at all. Soon after an order was placed on the site, a phone call would be made to the restaurant that you ordered from. Cyberslice used an automated phone system powered by Apex Voice Communications to read the customer's order to an employee. Each restaurant partnered with Cyberslice received a reference card with instructions on how to take the order, have information repeated, and even decline the order if necessary. Once the employee pressed 1, a robotic voice would read the customer's order and state the delivery address. The employee would then tell the Cyberslice system how long the order will take to process by dialing the amount of minutes required, for example 30, followed by the pound key. Cyberslice would then notify the customer of the wait time, and the pizza restaurant would process the order just like any other one placed by phone. And all of this was entirely automated, and it enabled the smallest of pizza shops to have the same amount of online presence as the big guys. It's a great real-world example of what Steve Jobs was talking about when he said, "The web is the ultimate direct-to-consumer distribution channel." Another way to think about it is, the smallest company in the world can look as large as the largest company in the world on the web. Another thing that made Cyberslice really attractive to customers is that it was completely free to use. Cyberslice made money by charging the restaurants a small fee for each order placed, which would be anywhere from 50 cents to a few dollars. Very similar to how food delivery apps work today, except they also charge the customer an additional fee. And while these fees can definitely add up over time, it still provided the restaurants with an immense value. Keep in mind that Cyberslice set up an entire web page for each of the restaurants and didn't charge them anything to maintain it. The only thing the restaurants had to do was train their employees to interact with the automated phone system. So for pizza restaurants that wanted a fast, easy, and low-cost way to get online, Cyberslice was it. Just over 2 weeks after the initial press release, Apple announced their intentions to purchase Next, and Steve Jobs came along with the company, eventually becoming Apple's new CEO. As for Cyberslice, they gradually expanded their operation, eventually changing their name to Cyber Meals, implementing the Cyberslice concept at restaurants of all types. Later on, they acquired the food.com domain name and rebranded the company around it, becoming Food.com Incorporated in 1999. That same year, the company was issued a patent for their online ordering system, titled Internet Online Order Method and Apparatus. But the Food.com website would only be around for a few years afterwards, as the domain was purchased by the Food Network in the mid-2000s, who is its present-day owner. The company later rebranded themselves once again to Geocom Systems. At this point, their primary business was selling their retail ordering system directly to restaurants. It was also under a completely different management team, as none of the 3 co-founders worked there. According to Tim Glass's LinkedIn page, the company was bought out by Excel Partners in the late 90s. So that is the story of Cyberslice, and that's how Steve Jobs made history by being the service's very first customer. Although he wasn't directly involved with Cyberslice, his company developed the tools that helped power it, and his public support of the company helped to promote it and get the name out there. And according to Brian Cupps, Steve Jobs even helped get Cyberslice's technology archived at the Smithsonian Institution. And even though Cyberslice is probably long forgotten by most, its impact can still be felt today in food ordering apps like DoorDash and Grubhub. So the next time you perform the seemingly mundane task of ordering a pizza online or through an app, just think of the incredible amount of innovation that was required to make it possible. Innovation that started over 2 decades ago with the launch of a service inspired by a Sandra Bullock movie and publicly supported by Steve Jobs. That's all for today's video. I want to thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and get subscribed. And as always, I will see you all in the next video.